Welcome everybody back to the Inner Circle. We have a special guest today. And I do say special because this one's personal for me. I've had the opportunity to work with Brandon here in the Calgary area. He's one of the most respected landscape companies over the last 20 years that him and his family helped build together. And so I'm super excited to welcome Brandon to the show, welcome Brandon to the community. And so yeah, I want to point this out and say like Brandon's got so much experience from a contractor standpoint, from landscape and even tech, folks. So we have someone today that is well-rounded, as understands, the integral parts of business from very various angles. So I'm super pleased to introduce Brandon. Brandon, welcome to the group, and let's start out with hearing your story.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for having me on today. As Hector mentioned, I'm from Calgary. I grew up in Red Deer, went to high school there, and I'll just quickly summarize, 20 years of time in a few sentences here. So I met Michelle in high school. We've been together for 22 years. We built a landscape company together. We sold that about a year and a half ago after growing it to about 60 employees, and we're living off the sale of that now, and we're building out a software business. I've known Hector for quite a few years. He's helped me tremendously, mentored me, and helped me in my businesses. So I'm more than happy to join the call today and go through anything he wants and just share as much value and lessons from my journey as I possibly can with everybody else.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks, Brendan, for joining us. But before we get into the big stuff, I want to say that watching you and Michelle build together what was something really special was so inspiring. So kudos to both of you for what you built out in the Calgary community. And so I think we gotta just acknowledge that takes a lot of work. And so I wanted to start off with asking about that. Like, what did that partnership look like behind the scenes? It's not that often that you talk about, couples building a business together and really thriving. So, what was that experience like behind the scenes?
Yeah. Do you guys, is there some background noise for you, Hector? Or is it
Nope,
just me? I'll keep
nothing
going
on
if it's
mine.
only me. Okay. Um, so I mean, Michelle and I have been together so long. We have very differing strengths and weaknesses. She's an accountant. She's a chartered accountant that went to school and became a corporate person, and I'm a high school dropout that started a landscaping company. So we know each other's strengths quite well. I came up on the tools. I didn't buy this business. I started it out of my garage, and she paid the bills, paid the mortgage for a couple of years until I could afford to pay myself a pathetic salary for a year or two and really get the thing off the ground. Um, it's just very natural for us to work together. She knows the systems, and I honestly don't know any other way. I don't think that it's that much different than any other business partnership. I think that if I they say a business partnership is like a marriage,
Yeah,
and I think it might even be harder potentially because you're spending a lot of time with this person that you go into business with, and it's something that you'd really want to vet out and make sure you're going to get along. Um,
yeah,
but I think some of the advantages are that for us, we always found that the whole work-life balance thing, I think that I don't really like that term. I think it's kind of bullshit, to be honest. And
yeah.
there's different seasons through our life where we were flat out and we were just crying for a day off or an hour off. And when you're in it together, it just we knew what we were going through. We both committed to it together, and we put ourselves through it together, supported each other through it, and our lifestyle is a lot more integrated with business than it is separate. You know, when we're on
Absolutely.
vacation, sometimes we need a day to work, and that's just how it is. We don't really argue about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I wanted to start off there because what was important for me to touch on here is the support system that you were able to build and establish, and it's something that we really make a focal point of our community, is that support system that a lot of entrepreneurs don't get at home. They unfortunately are going through these pains that you talked about, and it can't go to their spouse, they can't go to the house because that support isn't there. And so it becomes yet another layer of burden and of stress that entrepreneurs, unfortunately, and business unit leaders have to endure. So I wanted to kind of start off with that, just to share everybody with what your experience is and how you dealt with that part of it, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, and what I find interesting, as you mentioned that, like as you're building up the business, a lot of guys in the trades start out just trying to survive, right? You talked about just trying to get a paycheck. So at what point did this shift from a job to a real business for you?
Um, yeah, but on the last point before we jump into that,
Yeah.
I wanted to mention how important it. I don't know if you realize this, Hector, but we were part of a peer group really early on, like this
Mhm.
one, and
Mhm.
it was probably only my second year in business that I joined a peer group, and that was really powerful for me. Just to surround myself with people going through the same thing as me every day, because my friends and my family, they all just tell you you're working too much and like what the hell and they try to give you advice. They have no clue. Like, take advice from people who are where you want to go, not from your mom, or sorry to say, but she
Yeah, no,
she
absolutely.
wants the best for your mental health, and sometimes it's a little tough as a leader and a business owner to accomplish days off every week and stuff like that. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And then what was your next thing there, Hector?
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean it's important to touch on that because it's critical as business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders. Like they don't have that support system. Like you said, you go to your parents, you go
Yeah.
to your family, you go to your friends, and you start asking for their input, and you quickly realize they don't understand it because they're not in your shoes. And that's where these peer groups like this is the fundamental necessities for that serious entrepreneur. These aren't nice to have because they really will be the ones that give you that support and give you the practical tools and the real stuff. Like we'll call out your BS, and a few of the guys here that have been around for a while know that we'll certainly call them out if they don't do their tasks and their weekly, takeaways. We don't hold back from calling out some of the accountability piece, which is what you need with entrepreneurship peer groups, right? So yeah, what I was leading to was like, at what point in that journey did you go from like survival mode to when you recognized, hey, I got a business here, this is something serious? Because a lot of entrepreneurs here in the room, some are there, some are starting off, and so really just giving the audience that view of when this triggers, when does it switch?
Well, I mean, I committed to it when I jumped in with both feet right from the start. I told myself I was going to give it my all for 5 years, and
Mhm.
whether it failed and I had to go get a job again, or I was successful, I was going to give it 5 years. And it probably took me until year three before I made any money. But that wasn't really when we started, I'll say, professionalizing the business. It was once we had, say five people working for us, like six people working for us, and it really started, like the weight of that started dawning on me.
Mhm.
Like these people they have families and kids, and the weight is on my shoulders to make sure that they can put food on their plates, pay their rent, and I need to step up here and figure out how to run this damn thing, figure out how to read my numbers, um, meet with peers, hire good people. Like they don't deserve to work with shitheads. They want
Huh.
good people in the truck with them, and they deserve that. And carrying that weight as an owner, you don't want to think about it too much because it'll it'll break you up. But that
Yeah.
was when I think we really started to push to professionalize the business. and and started leveling myself up. I knew that I was holding the people back in the company and the company back itself if I couldn't figure this thing out.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's astonishing to me is you made a bold move. Like you made a move and a bet that I have yet to really see as a common practice amongst entrepreneurs. In that that specific bet that I saw you make was that you went very specific as to who you served, right? You went specific to large condo complexes, maintenance and snow removal, targeted areas. Like, where did that clarity come from? Walk us through that decision-making process.
So, a bit of that is just who I am. Yeah, I mean, if you even look at my software, it serves the nichest of niches, and it comes from just wanting to do one thing really well. I didn't set out to be the biggest company in Calgary and have the biggest flag. We ended up having a very good sized business, but
Yeah,
it was more about being the best. Like I wanted to have the best service, best product, best people, best bottom line, so that we could pay the best wages. And to me, the simplicity of specialization is what made that possible. So if you kind of, I think every business goes through a phase at the start where
mhm.
you say yes to everything because you just need money and
It's-
work
that's
and you got to
right.
get the guys going next week. But there comes a point when you got to start saying no to almost everything, and you got to specialize and niche it down. And for me, um, that really led to simplification through the entire business. If we only service condos and not single family homes and not commercial and not industrial, that means I can have a lineup of the exact same trucks with the exact same equipment. I can train all the crews on the exact same services. I can hand off estimating and sales a lot easier because I only have to train my account managers on one sales process. And we can there's enough work in my market to make get millions of dollars in revenue through the door doing that. And then we can just wipe the floor with anybody who tries to do that niche. Nobody's
Right.
going to be able to compete with us doing that because it's all we do, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
So um,
It's amazing, amazing when you think about it. And at first thought that comes to mind is like, I wonder how that must have viewed to your competitors. Like, I wonder if they were sitting there thinking, like, man, this guy's crazy. Like, he's just leaving stuff on the table, all this other business that he's not even like they're not even bidding on it, right? Like, I wonder how that market reacted
yeah,
when you went that niche. Did you hear about it in the circles?
um, I think I think people, I don't know what, for me, it was easy,
Yeah.
as you can tell, like easy choice, not easy business.
Hmm.
But for other people in my peer group, I was always giving them shit. I'm like, why are you guys doing this? Like, you've lost money in your construction division for 3 years now. Why don't you just shut it down and focus?
Right.
Just that's the F word around here. One of them anyway is just focus,
Right.
and you'll get really good at something. It's not because condos were the most profitable or there's some golden ticket. It was
Hmm.
just that I knew if we did one thing and focused on it for years and years and years, we would be the best in town at it.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of inevitable if you think about it.
And it
So
did. Like it was a great story, and we're gonna go deeper as we move along into that accomplishment. But I'm still wanting to know more about you. And most blue collar business owners that I talk to struggle with some of that approach, and in particularly letting go of the feel, like the field actions, the field work. How did you make that transition from being out in the field work to to running the business, to getting behind the scenes? Because a lot of our folks are still in between both and they haven't made that distinction yet.
yeah, it took me a while to even meet somebody that I could trust. Like quite a few
Right.
employees is what I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly that.
the first one that came along, he's still with the company now that I've sold it. His name was Parker. And so Parker came on, and he had worked at the last company for 18 years when I hired him. And
Wow.
the last owner had retired. That's why he didn't work there anymore. So he came over to work with me, and he's now been there for 11 years. And I found he did a better job than I did, and I could trust him when he told me it was done right, that it was going to be done right. And and then I guess I just started building on that. The specialization really helped.
Mhm.
Processes, setting the bar, and holding that. Um, there was there was a couple of times over the years where we we went through some massive turnover. Um, you know, I would let go of the reins. I We had a place in Comox on Vancouver Island while our business ran in Calgary, and I thought, this thing's humming right along. It's doing great. I left for you know a few months of the year, came back and forth, and um, we they hired a bunch of kind of C players that were bringing down the A's. We were losing A players because they didn't want to work with the C's, and I could just see it. And that week it was like scorched earth. It was like everybody's fired. Hire new. Will fail on contracts. I don't care. Um, and so I didn't want to I wouldn't do that again. I'm smart enough to avoid it now, but holding the line on people, these are people businesses. It doesn't matter if it's landscaping or plumbing or whatever you do. You're selling hours and selling people's time, and you need to have really, really good people on your side.
Mhm.
And so that helped me to let go. Having
Nice.
repeatable processes, I'd say, is one of the keys.
Absolutely. You hit right on that. And that was like getting structurally fit and putting processes in place. So, I enjoyed it. Like when we started working together, your business was doing well. Like I was quite pleased, when I joined Landscapers by Nature of how far along this company had come and how well built it was. And I want to know, like, there's that difference between doing well and then being ready to be built to scale, right? And to really make that growth. Um, but that process takes time and commitment. And a lot of owners hear systems and structure and their eyes just glaze over. Like they get scared. They get like, I don't want to hear that. It's too scary. What would you say, to trade owners who think that that stuff is for corporate companies and not guys like us, like blue collar guys?
Systems and processes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, replace those words with whatever you're comfortable with. Like, this is how we do things. Like, it's just if you have, by the time you've trained your fifth operations manager on the same thing, you're going to wish you had a system. you know
That's right.
um and yeah, it doesn't have to be everything. You don't have to create a binder overnight. Just pick the most important ones. And I would say the most important ones are the inputs. So get the inputs right first.
Mhm.
And then the rest you can figure out as you go. So what are the inputs? The inputs would be, one of them would be recruiting, right? This is bringing people into your business. If you are lazy about recruiting, you're going to deal with, you know, a, a, a bunch of mistakes and a bunch of problems down the line.
That's right.
Good people can actually make up for somewhat lack of systems and processes, but you got to get the right people in. That's
Yeah.
one input.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not saying don't systemize, to be clear. I'm just saying get good people that you can trust. And we can talk more on that after. Another
Mhm.
input is your pricing, your estimating. That's an input into your business. So charge as much as the market will bear, and get an estimating process. That's one that you'd want.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and it's like garbage in, garbage out. Like, imagine all the contracts or all the jobs that you bring in that you wish you hadn't, um, and how much time and stress it is now that you have those customers. and think the same way for your people, so.
Yeah. It's amazing, right? And as we start to think about that system, and I know, you and I have worked with the same system and structure. What is your feedback about the structure that we run and that we help entrepreneurs with your learnings of that structure?
Yeah, that took simplification to a whole new level when I learned about having annuals and quarterlies, and we struggled and wasted time for years and years. This is a company with, if you go back a few years, 40 employees, 50 employees, and we're having meetings where they're just useless. Most tradespeople don't like sitting in boardrooms and having meetings. That's
Yeah,
why half the guys join these meetings from their trucks because that's their office, right? And
exactly.
and so just giving that structure to it really, I had good people, but it helped me to turn them into partners. Like we
Hmm.
started planning the business together. We started looking at financials together. They started
Hmm.
learning how to read P&Ls. We turned landscapers into business people with this system, right? So we took people off mowers, promoted them to account managers, sat them in a boardroom, stuck P&Ls in front of them, and they started learning how to report on financials to a CFO.
Right.
Um, it was one of the biggest successes of my career for sure, was seeing that happen and being able to develop people to that level and not need to find them off the street.
Yeah. Game changer, eh?
Absolute game changer. Yeah, it turned into millions more on the exit. I absolutely guarantee it.
Yeah. It's so rewarding when you see that evolution and that development in-house. And I can tell you from my experience, like kudos to you, to Michelle, to the leadership team at Landscapers by Nature for embracing the structure, but not just embracing it, like applying it and really believing in the system and the trust that you all placed, in each other and of course in myself being there. And it was quite the journey. I was super amazed with what that turnaround and what it did. And you touched on the exit because I think this is important to touch on what where that evolved to and how it rewarded both you and Michelle as you guys exited in a couple years ago. And that record multiplier for that space, it was amazing to hear and see it come through to be. And so like to me, I let that sink in for a second, and it doesn't happen by accident, right? Like something like that is intentional because you put in the work and the people have grinded through and they've delivered to that commitment. So walk me through like what it felt like on that deal day. Like how was that for you, and what was going through your mind as you were signing the documents?
Well, um, it was a good day to get the check, the money in the bank. I screenshotted my phone right away. That was pretty sweet. I'd never seen there's more commas than I'd ever seen. So that felt pretty good. Um, the the sale now is very, very bittersweet. I'm very happy that we accomplished that.
Hmm.
But you know, I went like to war in the trenches with these people to build this business. And I don't get to work with them anymore. And that's really sad. I'm happy that we were able to do it, and they're all doing very, very well. But
Hmm.
that part of it is a bit bittersweet. So I think it's what was interesting to me is that it's the same process whether you're going to keep or sell the business. Like you should do the same activities. You
Right.
want to make a repeatable system. Uh, you want the owner to not be part of the day to day. You don't want the owner to be dependent on for everything, because a buyer, that's a risk. They don't want to buy, a business where the owner knows everything, has all the processes in his head and his or her head, and everything goes through that individual. So, you want to work into having a very streamlined business, whether you're going to keep it or you're going to sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's some advice that you'd give to somebody who maybe is on that trajectory and thinking about maybe an exit? Like what would you recommend is their first start?
Talk to Hector. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I mean, so there's if you think it's a couple years out, if it's that close, like if it's 2, 3 years out, start talking to an accountant, like an M&A accountant, not your aunt or whatever that's an accountant.
Right.
Um, and just understand, because there's a lot of tax implications and strategies and things that take time, and you want to understand all of that stuff. Uh,
Yes.
remember that buyers, business buyers often buy businesses multiple times in their life, and a lot of sellers only sell once. So you're going to be going in, at a disadvantage naturally. So you want to build up a good team on your side. I had Hector on my side to help me through that, and he had done deals before. So just from a shoulder to cry on to just people that know how to do the paperwork right. Yeah, I would start by building a team and just talking to other people. Feel free to reach out to me directly, if you want to chat sometime about it. Um, and there's so much to know. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy how many ways there is you could get screwed, and how many, whether it's by the tax man or whatever. So there's a lot to know, and a
There's a
lot
lot of
going into it.
unknowns.
Just talk
Yeah.
talk to people who have done it before. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Get educated on it. And so now you sold the business, Site DNA, right? You're building an amazing tool, software specifically for landscape account managers and business owners, landscapers. So you went from operator to founder, from that perspective again, right? So tell me about that. What is the problem that you're solving with Site DNA?
Yeah, I would also recommend just taking some time off between businesses. I don't know. Maybe it's like Willie, it's like, what the hell? You got to get back into it, and we just must love the pain of building businesses, I guess. I would recommend taking a day or two off between, your exit and your next business. I didn't do that,
That's not how
but
we're wired, Brandon. That's not how we're wired, man.
I know it's just silly. But yeah, so Site DNA is for landscape maintenance companies, which is what mine was, and it helps account managers audit their sites. So it's like a site audit tool, an inspection tool to find all of the enhancement opportunities, all of the quality control things that they need to organize, and organize those things over often a long period of time, because those contracts can last for years and years. So
Right.
that's yeah, it's just a problem I think we solved quite well when we were in the landscape company, and now I want to turn it into a software and learn a whole new industry. So that's what I'm doing.
It's amazing. I mean, it's such a cool tool. I've had the opportunity to see it as it's evolved and see it in action, and it's cool to see how you could take, a picture and then you have the ability to now create an opportunity to upscale and upsell from a property standpoint, but not just from the selling opportunity, but from the end user having that perspective of value being increased in their property, because of the work that's being pointed out and that you're committing to, and having all that digitally, at the palm of your hands and stored that you can go back to reference and not have to worry about quotes being sent in or, doing all that manual stuff. It's all in-house in one digital platform directly with those experts that you trust that you're working with. So yeah, really, really
That's
cool
right.
to see. Yeah, love
Keeping
it,
it
love
very
it.
niche, right? Only landscapers, only landscape maintenance landscapers. So it's very specialized. Again, it's like the steady theme through my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, not trying to be everything for everybody, right? This is who we are. This is the problem that we're solving. Love
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
Love it. Love it. So, for the audience here that's in that trades or service industry owner, they're listening in, they're thinking about your story and they're saying, man, like, I want that. I want to be able to speak about my story in that way, where do they start? Like, what's something that you think that would help them?
To get towards just freedom in general from their business.
Yeah, freedom in general and the overall description of, how you went from, struggling, finding your rhythm, finding your niche to overall structure, exits, and now giving you the freedom to work on other projects like you're doing now.
Yeah, I think it whether I knew it or not that I had started on the journey, a lot of it was my circle, like who I hung out with, my coaches, my peer group, who still stay in contact with today. That was
Mhm.
a lot of it because ultimately, um, your business is limited by you, whether you want to hear it or not, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, you really need to um, find those resources and actually execute. So,
Mhm.
you can listen to all the stuff that Hector and Willie tell you. You can watch lots of podcasts and read all the books. At some point, that stuff just becomes entertainment if you're not actually putting a shovel in the ground and executing on those things.
Yeah.
So spending, I know it's hard because I know customers are calling and employees are failing at delivering services and all of those things, but you've got to carve time out to work on your business. I you know I would leave my house and just sit in a Starbucks from like open to close, and they're open long hours. They they'd
Yeah.
be a lot of coffee and tea, but just get those processes dialed in. Really challenge yourself when I talk about figuring out recruiting and figuring out estimating, like actually do something with that. Actually go
Yes.
and challenge yourself to, next time you need to recruit a role, uh, do at least 10 interviews to see who's out there. Make the time to make it happen, because those are some of the most important things you can possibly do. I would say, figure out where you want to go,
Right.
and don't be shy about it. Like, you want to run a $5 a $10 million business, a $20 million business. You want to sell it and buy a yacht. That's cool. Um, that's probably not exactly the vision you'll cast to your employees, but it's
That's
about where
right.
the business would go and what's in it for them. So you need to have a vision that is big enough that they can all fit within it. And
Absolutely.
so, how am I going to attract someone like Hector to come and work with me if I'm fumbling around? I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, where this business is going. I don't know what we specialize in. I'm never going to be able to hire a guy like that, right? Even if I had the money, he'd never come and work with me. So getting a vision in place. I'm not talking about like a vision board, unless that's your thing, but just, here's where we're going in 5 years. This company is going to look like this. And in order to do that, we're going to need to uh, promote a few people into account manager roles. We're going to need to move shops. That's going to look like 25 trucks instead of 4. This is what it is going to look like. And then people can start to think, like, I can see that this leader is someone that I want to hitch my cart to, and help build that, because that sounds fun as hell. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, or
Man,
if I'm
that's
just
that was that
rambling.
was bang on. No, it was perfect because you really hit on that vision component, which is something that we always talk about in our program, specifically when we're working one-on-one with entrepreneurs. It all starts with your vision, and it starts with that section talking about your core values, understanding where this company's going, right, and why it exists, who you are here to serve, and what are those goals that will attract and retain the right people. Because you're bang on, like, you might have very large wishful thinking, but it's all BS if you can't actually quantify it and put some work behind it. And the other thing that I thought was really cool about what you talked about is, like, this isn't about a vision board and something that you would just think about, and you know not, don't get me wrong, I'm a big believer of the power of the mind, but I'm a big believer of power of getting shit done. And so get in there and do the work. It's not going to do itself, right? So like that to me is something that I really appreciate. And one last thing as we close off, what's one thing that you know now that you wish you had known when you started this journey? Let's leave the group with that.
I I wish I knew when I started the journey that what I was building was an asset that was going to be worth something. I didn't know that. I was just a guy on the tools that thought I could do it better myself, like a lot of people that start trades businesses.
Hmm.
And so when I was, really going through those tough years and those tough times, I didn't know anything about selling businesses. Like there wasn't as much resources and it wasn't plastered all over social media like it is today. I don't know if everybody sees that all the time now or if it's just my feeds, but I didn't know I could build my landscape company into something that um, could be worth so much.
Yeah.
It was amazing when I found that out, and I think that would have driven me more early on if I had known that I wasn't just building a job, I was building an asset that I could actually sell to someone else that was really valuable.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing I think is just that I I assumed running a bigger company was going to be really, really hard than it was, like when like fighting my way to the first million in revenue, a million in a year in revenue was like hell. Like getting past a million and a half was even harder because I did everything, right? And I rolled the crews out every morning and then it snowed on Sunday and I can't go skiing with my friends and whatever, yada, yada,
Right.
yada.
Exactly.
That was so hard. And when you have 15 employees, it's like, how the hell could I run a 30 employee company? A 50, how do people do that? 50, 60, and from that vantage point, it just seemed like insane to think that that was going to be easier. But somehow it just is. Um, you have so many more managers and so many trusted people in order to get you there. And then it's like when you can pass a million or two in revenue, you are different. Like you are literally holding the business back. So in order to even, I don't know where everybody's at in the call, but just in order to run a company with 20, 30, 40, 50 employees, um, you are naturally just much better at delegating because you had to have become that in order to get there.
Absolutely.
So it's not harder to run a business with 50 employees. It's just what I'm saying. That when it's 15, it's way harder.
That's right. As long as you have the right framework, right? and,
Yeah,
and the right strategy for sure.
totally.
Awesome. Well, Brennan, how do the people in the call? We have some here that are on the call, others that will listen in, to our podcast. How do they get a hold of you? How do they find out more about Site DNA and the other projects that you're working on?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you can get me on LinkedIn really easily. You can direct message me on there. I'll definitely get back to everybody who messages me. You can email me, Brandon at sitedna.ai.
There you go. Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you here today, Brandon. Amazing. I'll pass it over to Willie. We'll see, Willie, if you've got any questions for Brandon.
Yeah, I was thinking Brandon is so much better at telling his story and his experience going through what I all did. I could really relate to yeah, even when I was at 20, 30 employees, just couldn't imagine how we could grow beyond that. And then we eventually reached 100 employees, and it was like I had worked myself out of a job in my own business. And there again, I keep telling that to people. It gets easier the more employees you get if you have your business structured. So yeah, can really relate to that. And I was thinking on one question like when you were building your business, how many years did you have that business?
11.
11 years. Okay. And when you started, like, did you start off with some kind of vision and you had this vision to build it, or when did you see this could become a little bit more than you thought at first, maybe?
So when I started the business, I was thinking that maybe myself and maybe I could hire a friend and we could just work together. And I thought that would be about it. We would do small apartments. And the reason that I would do like small condos, small apartments was so I didn't have to buy a skid steer, and I didn't have to buy any big stuff. And I knew so little about finances that I thought, I bet we could do like 400, 500 grand a year in revenue. And I bet we could both pay each other like 100 or 150 from that. And that was so far from the truth. Like it's, it ended up, I couldn't pay myself anything. And then I hired Parker for 45 grand a year, and he made 45 grand a year more than I did that year. So, yeah, it took a few years because I wasn't surrounded by business owners at the very start. I didn't know how this worked really at all. It took until I could see other people's businesses that were, say they were $1 million and they had a few crews out there, and I could kind of start to understand why they structured it that way and ask them questions and that kind of thing. So it took me a few years to get any real vision to it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that was kind of the same for me. It was not until I hired a business coach and I was already 5, 6 years into the business where he got me to think about what's actually the vision, and then we started building that out, and I always look back, if that hadn't happened, I would have probably stayed stuck.
Yeah.
Or yeah. So yeah.
There's this interview I saw with Jeff Bezos, like a long time ago. He was talking about how he was dreaming of the day he could afford a forklift to load up books, from Amazon. So,
Amazing.
it's just crazy how things go sometimes.
Yeah, and now looking back, how much power there is if you actually take the time to go over what is actually the vision for the business, right? And I know we have some small business owners in the room. It's just thinking at where you really want to take the business and plan it out, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Awesome.
right.
Great. Excellent. Thanks, Willie. All right. We'll pass it back to Alan, and we'll open it up to the room. Alan, you know the routine, and we'll
Yeah,
go from there.
let's do it. Well, I just have to say, Brandon, thank you so much for today. This was just so good. Thanks for agreeing to come on and being with us and sharing with us. Hector, thanks for bringing Brandon to today's call. It was so good. It makes me remember of, the oil field company that I started from scratch. Didn't know what I was doing, didn't have a vision in it, but grew it, and eventually sold it. And Brandon, I love what you said. I didn't maybe write it down verbatim, but you said, I wish I'd have known, back when I started, that I could build an asset worth as, much as it was. I didn't have that idea at all when I was starting out in my business. So accurate, so great. I love that you said that you encourage us to build a vision for our team big enough for our team to find their place within it. Um, and then you gave us some very specifics on what that vision sounds like. We've had lots of training on how to create a vision, but you gave us some just absolute gold on what then that sounds like out of our mouth and into the ears of our team. That was brilliant. And I would say, you're kind of like this
You're
true to
so
life.
kind, Al.
You're kind of like this true to life, and I don't mean to insult you, but it's kind of like you're this real
Please.
rags to riches kind of story. And I don't mean rags to, but it was like you're this high school dropout, you said, and you just went to work and you built this thing from scratch. You built it from nothing, and look what you created with it, and look what you were able to reap from, a sale. And now you said your family's living off the proceeds of that as you move forward in the next thing. So just great to have you with us today. A great inspiration. I could pick your brain and ask you questions and connect with you all night long, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna turn it over to the rest of the room. Guys, the deal from here. We're open it up to you. This is your time. We don't have to be all nicey nice and put up our hands. Just unmute and ask your question. Just unmute and tell us what maybe your biggest takeaway. If you've got something specific for Brandon, capitalize on that and ask him while he's here.